Hello. In this video tonight, I'll be talking about giving examples rather on grassroots political organizing, gender equality, civil rights, social inclusion, and giving examples of how social workers help with the redistribution of power. So, of course, the first point of that would be grassroots political organizing. And according to Dolores Huerta, who is the co-founder of United Farm Workers, she says, knowing that ordinary people have the power to come together to organize and that they can change policies, this is what really engaged me. So basically, what grassroots political organizing is a way of organizing in which members at the local level, i.e. communities or small groups, encourage others at the local level to stand up for causes that affect them. So a few ways that people can participate in grassroots organizing would be fundraising, or even the people who register others to vote, things like that. It's ordinary citizens standing up for a cause, the average Joe. With grassroots organizing, it's more from the bottom up and not from the top down, basically. So a few examples of grassroots organizations, believe it or not, would be the NRA, for one, the National Rifle Association, the Indivisible movement, a movement called Swing Left, and People's Momentum is another grassroots organization. So ways that average people can basically encourage other average citizens to stand up would be through social media. We know it's the thing now. Social media, most people get all their information from social media, which is a downside. But a positive side to that is basically now everyone has the opportunity to use their voice to influence other people, whether it be in a good way or in a bad way. But for those who are really pushing to bring change on a local level and to get other people involved on a local level, social media it's a catalyst for that. Petitions is another way, and even protesting done peacefully, but the right form of protesting is another way that people can engage in grassroots organization. So the Indivisible movement that I mentioned just a minute ago, they focus on encouraging voters to engage with representatives and provides guides and resources to help voters through the lobbying process. So essentially, with the Indivisible movement, they're encouraging average voters to basically get to know more about politics, to get to know who their representatives are, how their representatives vote, and issues that are current, things like that. Basically, it's teaching people how they can lobby, how they can reach out to their representatives, and getting them more informed and involved. So that's grassroots organization. The next point would be gender equality. And what gender equality is equal access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender across all sectors of society. It's measured by considering the representation of men and women in a variety of roles. So, of course, a few different areas where people have fought for gender equality would be voting, women's rights, women joining the military, and even in law enforcement, things like that. In Berlin, Germany, as of April of this year, they developed a statewide program, and it's developed, it's called the Gender Equality Framework Program, and it was implemented in April of this year. A few points from that program in Berlin focus on men and women having equal parts in community and political leadership. Another point would be equal compensation and employment access, and then making sure that men and women are offered gender equitable programs in healthcare and sports. So, next point would be civil rights. And according to Wikipedia, Civil rights are a class of rights that protect individuals' freedom from infringement by governments, infringement by social organizations, and even infringement from private individuals. Um, Civil rights ensure one's ability to participate in the civil and political life of the society and state without discrimination or repression. So, of course, examples of civil rights would be the right to vote, the right to a fair trial, and the right to public facilities. And I hadn't heard about the right to public facilities before, so when I looked that up, according to Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it actually prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodation due to race, color, religion, or origin. So, public accommodations would be hotels, restaurants, swimming pools, theaters, things like that. So, part of civil rights are making sure that everyone has equal access to public facilities. So, next point would be social inclusion. So, according to worldbank.org, social inclusion is the process of improving the terms on which individuals and groups take part in society by improving the ability, opportunity, and dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. It sounds like a lot, but when you get into it, social inclusion, you want to think about factors of exclusion. So basically, in a lot of different societies, people are excluded socially from taking part in things like voting or things, anything, just because of certain factors like race or origin, gender, disability status, unemployment. So to give an example, of course, would be racism and sexism. So with racism, minorities of different sorts are excluded socially. They were at one point from taking part in voting or going to certain schools or marrying outside of their race, things like that. They were racially or socially excluded on behalf of their race. So, according to gov.uk, there is a charity commission for England and Wales. And for that commission, one of their goals is to achieve inclusion of Muslims. So now there is a booming population of Muslim persons in England and Wales and other parts of Europe. So, of course, they want to include those persons in society. And this is taken from gov.uk. It says their goal, is to promote social inclusion for the public benefit by working with people who are socially excluded on the grounds of their ethnic origin, religion, belief, or creed, and to relieve the needs of such people and assist them to integrate into society. Now, that's a quote taken from gov.uk, but in parentheses, they're specifically talking about the Muslim community. They want to include the Muslim community socially. So that would be an example of social inclusion. And then I guess my last point would be how social workers help with the redistribution of power. And I think that's such a broad term. That can go on for days, exactly what the redistribution of power is. But I think one of the biggest responsibilities of social work is to deal with people at the individual level, which would be micro level social work. So I believe that social workers advocate on behalf of oppressed peoples and those who are vulnerable to achieve the things that are aforementioned. What a disciplined social worker would do is gain knowledge of the issues affecting those people that experience gender inequality, social exclusion, and those whose civil rights are being infringed upon. So that's the number one thing as a social worker or any kind of an advocate, people interested in social politics, anything like that. First, you have to have a knowledge base. You need to get information. You need to learn. You need to get experience. Get a knowledge base first. because that's your foundation. Before you can do anything such as redistribution of power, you have to start with your knowledge base. An example would be social workers in the political spectrum lobbying for equality and equity. And of course, social workers work with individuals to empower them. So that's basically my video on gender equality, civil rights, social inclusion, and the grassroots organization.